All right, I'm just gonna make sure this works, and then we will get started. Um, okay, perfect. So, anyways, so welcome back to this week's live stream. Um, Before we begin, just so for new listeners, just so you know that this is a unscripted live stream. Every week, choose a topic that's trending, something new in the market, something new. It's usually commodities, geopolitics, trade focused. Sometimes we delve into macroeconomic policy, central banking decisions. This week, we got a bit of a large topic to discuss. We're going to look at the World Energy Outlook put out by the IEA, the International Energy Administration, for 2025. And I think it was last a few weeks, last week, I believe, or if I, I can, last week I believe it was put out. But I also wanted to just kind of touch on something that an interesting topic um, that came up, and also I will be for the first time. Those of you watching are going to see something I've been working on. Um, it's in development. It will be available in the coming couple months um, for beta testing. If you're interested in beta testing this, once I get it up and running, um, leave a comment to this video and I will reach out with details. Um, Thank you. Anyways, before we begin, just so you know, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn your notifications on so you never miss a live stream or an episode. Also on this channel, it was halted. I've been traveling, but as you can see, I'm back in my office. So I'm back in town. So I will be trying to resume that normal schedule just so you're clear, on Mondays, we'll be releasing it's called the Commodity Bro podcast, where again, we unpack recent developments in the commodity markets, energy policy, trade, geopolitics, uh, and supply chain. Uh, so yeah, stay tuned for that. We also have our live stream and the channel. We will be in the future. We will be uploading more videos. Um, but if you can like, subscribe, and turn notifications on, it would really help us in the algorithm. Help me in the algorithm. I mean, and yeah, this is work in progress. Bear with me. But yeah, before further ado, let's dive right in. Um, so I was looking at it before, so I was just like looking at something. You can go back to that. So this is the 2025 World Energy Outlook. Oh, sorry, I'm not even sharing my screen. Give me a moment here. 2025 World Energy Outlook, put up with the IEA. Um, it's pretty extensive. It's like 519 pages. Let's zoom in. I kind of wanted to delve into something. Let's go look at the table of contents just so I can see. Because there's two things. I got an interesting question the other day. Um, Two interesting questions. I will discuss them more in depthly in the free version of my newsletter. And I'll go show you that later, but um, we can go talk about that later. But there were two things. First of all, someone had emailed me they informed me of there was an article in the Globe and Mail, um, and basically the Globe and Mail talked about LNG supply is put out by the IEA forecasted that we see that the by 2030 in this document here, by 2030, um, global demand for LNG so naturally is going to double by 2030. So naturally, I went in and dug around, and I'll go back to that section. I believe it was page 69. Uh, Sorry, bear with me. Bear with me. I think it was above the coal section. No, let me just do this by 2030. Let's just Google one of the numbers and we'll see 260. Control F 260. There we go. Here we go. Sorry, this is the section. It was below. So 2035. So just kind of this is their outlook by 2035. Um, so they kind of put it into three scenarios. Um, and basically the essentially they essentially put it into three scenarios. You have your CPS, which is your current policy scenario. Um, basically that that's essentially the normal under normal conditions from what I'm just from what I'm at. So bear in mind, I'd only read about this. I'd only read it. I just was giving this section about an hour ago. So I'm just gonna try to unpack it live with you. But if I understand correctly, before deconfirming increase in the label and so it's just like these are three scenarios they put out. Um, if you look at the chart, there's basically that you have they're looking at if you're looking at capacity because demand and they're the new infrastructure current capacity being infrastructure that already exists for LNG under construction is new infrastructure. So CPS that's the current that's the assuming there from what I understand correctly. Um, it's essentially, I believe it's sorry, what does CPS stand for? The current policy scenario. So that's assuming that's assuming that demand, that everything goes that's the normal base case. That's the normal case scenario. Steps, I believe, is the stated policy scenario, and that's essentially what's um that's the that's I understand. Hold on a moment. Yeah, so I was right. So the CPS, I believe, is what's assuming everything goes as planned. That's the normal base case scenario. Steps the steps is the scenario. It is which I'm trying to understand why it's lower, but it's lower projected. It looks like steps is lower projected than CPS, but because CPS is supposedly the best the normal case, but steps is more supposedly if they were to account for new policy that's supposed to be implemented by governments and but again, I think that actually maybe that's what it is. So CPS is assuming current. Steps is assuming that it's future policy that's yet to be implemented. But again, steps, from what I understand, takes into account climate, some of the climate change, some of the climate targets that are met by developed by non by developed nations. CPS doesn't. Um, and again, and I believe I'm trying to figure out what NZE. Let's see what NZE. Yeah, so and NZE is like the worst case scenario for them. Is the worst case scenario for them. It assumes that again all the that despite the infrastructure development, again net zero emission net it stands for net zero emissions. So it would I guess I believe they're basically assuming that um that basically demand would drop for LNG. That doesn't necessarily seem plausible. I know that in prior outlooks put out by the IEA, especially in their EV outlook from the last year, they talked about even the demand. They were walking back some of their talk about the demand for not for we talked about some of the demand fading for EVs. Some of so for 2030, sorry, because originally they had projected. Sorry, I'm getting lost here. Originally, the IEA had projected that demand for EVs, demand for renewables was going to increase dramatically by 2030. While demand for natural gas, oil and gas, or the oil and gas sector would, or oil and gas or traditional fossil fuels would plateau around 2030. Now they're saying 2035, and now they're saying 2035. It seems to me there's a bit that, I mean, that's their worst case scenario. Again, assuming this, that means the billions of dollars or the trillions of dollars that are being spent globally. Um, I know that Canada, let's go to the Canadian federal budget. Canadian federal budget 2025. That's not it. Here, our plan. Let's see. See the infrastructure. There was a budget here. Infrastructure is like for example, this is for Canada. Infrastructure is our largest budget. I know that I saw an article too on Reuters that talked about, I believe it was, let me get my phone. Let me get the name of it. It is, what's the name of Reuters LNG fast track. Yeah, Silenisms LNG in BC, I believe. Let's look that up. Here we go. So it's in the Rockies. So this is in BC. This is another project that it's supposed to be fast tracked by the Canadian government, part of its infrastructure spending. What was that? What was the specific number they said? Where is it? I'm trying to find a lot of stuff. There's the longer budget. I remember seeing the numbers just in the intro here. Here it is. 115 billion dollars over the next 5 years. Again, over several infrastructure programs. A lot of them have to do with data centers, the energy sector. If you dig into the budget, you'll find we discussed the budget high level last week. I just want to kind of give an overview of my thoughts on it, but and we're not going to talk much about it. I just want to bring that up because to show you that like I don't think that a lot of the if this worst case scenario, the net zero emissions were to happen, as this worst case scenario were to play out even remotely, it means a lot of these projects are likely for demand dropping. A lot of these projects like Silism Lisms is likely to just um it's basically gonna go it's basically gonna lose funding, run out of runway, or it's gonna lose or it's just gonna be shut down. Um, and just for clear, fast track means there's a lot of bureaucracy that these projects go through, at least in Canada. I know, I won't speak to the US or other places. I know they're probably, they have probably their own infrastructure, and probably their own red tape. But I know for Canada, there's like a 3 to 5 year waiting the time premium on these projects just because, and by time premium, I mean, you should just usually tack on an extra 3 to 5 years when you're estimating the time period. This is just kind of conversations I've had with people because in the industry, because you have all this red tape, you have all this paperwork you need to get through, you have to get approved, and in Canada, you don't earn mineral rights, so everything's almost gotta, or you don't earn, you don't own you don't own the rights to the energy or the minerals under the ground. The government can come in, so theoretically, you gotta go through all this red tape to get permission from the government to operate. Um, now, where am I getting at? Where are my notes? Like I have a list of bullet points that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, but yeah, I think so. Anyways, well, I mean, we can even talk about the the current. We can even go into, you know what? Let's kind of see. Let's go back to the table of contents and see maybe let's see kind of what's happening because I'm curious to look into into the other let's look at their electricity demand, because that would kind of give an idea too. Um, um, Data centers. Let's go to data centers, but then after let's go to critical minerals. So I'm gonna go to 51, page 51. Alrighty. So yeah, so the projecting here, just looking off the top, just looking at these charts, you can see like they're projecting almost like um first of all the US is leading, then US is leading by 20, yeah, by 2024, but going from 2024, it's more than double. They're gonna say like they're saying that data centers are more than double, but let's see. Recent year technology. Something interesting about this, because you're seeing here that if you read here, like if you go and read this after, they're talking about like a more this is more than doubling what the growth than and there's more growth happening with demand for data centers and electricity than in the oil and gas sector. But what's interesting about this is, and the reason I do believe that, and the reason is because um, just I remember at the Global Energy Show, I was listening to a guy from the University of Calgary, and he was talking about because they're experimenting with data centers in the city of Calgary, and then eventually they were looking at deal with Danielle Smith, the mayor, and they wanted to do something large, like provincially, province wide, and eventually, with the hopes of having an SMR powered um, power grid across Canada, a national power grid. And what's interesting about that, and again, that was driven by the demand from data centers. And what's interesting about data centers, the reason, you've been hearing a lot of stuff, a lot of countries are now investing billions into data centers, but just to kind of get an idea, if you think about it in terms of the supply, in terms of data itself has almost become like a commodity. I genuinely believe. I was talking about this the other day. Someone the other day, like I think eventually we're going to get to a point where you can trade data as a commodity, simply because there's so much of it being created exponentially, and every time you use your device, it's being created. So these data centers are essentially storage for, so if you, storage for your data. So if you think of these data centers. I mean, data center has been around for a while, but this recent like jump in hype, if you will, in development of data centers, um, is essentially it's going to. I mean, this recent hype is just because of the rapid, like, you just seen the rapid adoption of AI. So AI has just created so much data. Anytime you use like ChatGPT, for example, it's creating data. So you need somewhere to store the data. So it's almost like, in the oil and gas sector we talk about. You have what we just talked about in the oil and gas sector, how natural gas storage. Um, so you need a place to store the natural gas. But then if there's not enough storage, but too much of it being produced, then you either increase your capacity to store, or you need to sell it. And so and with data, it's a bit different, with natural gas or with oil. Like with oil, you can just store it off tankers on the coast. Data centers, if you don't have the storage capacity for it, you lose the data. Um, And yeah, and they're saying like in China and the European Union, data centers account for 6 to 10% of growth in electricity demand by 2030. This is just means like the cost of electricity is just gonna sky. If this is true, that means this cost of electricity is gonna just skyrocket by 2030. Like the US and China are just leading in this. Yeah. See, that's what I was saying. Like 45% growth through to so they're saying there's gonna be a 45% growth through 2035, nearly 400 terawatts per hour. Um, and that's the steps projection. Let's see, you have a chart there. Yeah, no. Anyways, I'm trying to see if they had a chart like that, but like what we were looking at, the line chart, but to kind of show the different scenarios. But yeah, 45%. Um, and then so sorry for and then slightly lower the CPS for renewables also provides a share of the incremental supply through around 40% in supply of electricity, natural gas also plays. And again, I think this is the other thing for natural gas. Why natural gas is just booming, and why the natural gas sector I think is gonna it's gonna and that's an interesting. I can get into that in a moment. Before I digress, I just want to say like the natural gas. That's why I think there's been a lot of um, there's been a lot of motivation by Western nations to increase their natural gas production. I know Canada for years has had an issue with in its energy sector. You know, we've been it's for those of you familiar with Canadian politics. Um, the last government was very against developing our oil and gas sector. They were very pro, the clean energy sector. Um, I mean, you can understand the motivation, but also this is a key market that I think Canada is behind on, and I thought it's trying to, and that's this investments are just a sign they're just trying to rapidly catch up. Um, and again, nuclear power here. So I know just from conversations with people who work in the nuclear power sector, they talk about how in Canada, like SMR small modular reactors are going to play a big role in the next years. And like I was saying, they go into this too, like AI and energy, like a lot of this demand for electricity. AI is going to use a lot of electricity. I mean, I'm even gonna go there and talk about crypto, I was listening to an interview with Eric Trump the other day, and he was talking about his company, American Bitcoin, I believe it's called. Um, Bitcoin stock. Yeah, it's a new company. Basically, their whole thing is they want to mine Bitcoin. So ABTC, if you're interested, this is the stock American Bitcoin Corp. ABTC on the New York Stock Exchange, or sorry, the Nasdaq, if you're interested. But yeah, he would know. But in his interview, he was talking about their big thing is is they're basically building massive money centers in Texas. They have one in Texas, for example. That's going to require a lot of electricity or a lot of power to generate. I mean, sorry, not generate to power. Like Bitcoin is a very energy intensive process. I'm not going to go into that. It's for those of you familiar, you can look into it. But you need a lot of energy, a lot of electricity to mine Bitcoin. Um, and that's again the stuff you're seeing a lot of these developments, but again, AI, crypto, what a lot of these things have in common is they're very energy intensive industries. They require a lot of energy. So as we as the if so for and again in the tech sector, that 40 40% of, I think the number was 40% of returns on the S&P on the Nasdaq were driven by the tech sector. For that type of growth to be seen to be seen um, in a relatively short period over the past decade, you have to wonder what's powering this, literally and figuratively. And that's again why a lot of that might be putting a lot of upward pressure on prices of electricity nowadays, but also that's again what's driving up the price. That's what's driving the price of electricity. Um, yeah, let's see. Let's go to critical minerals. That's something another thing I wanted to discuss. That would be interesting to look into. And I know there's no real I mean I had some bullets of stuff I wanted to talk about, but I figured we just look at this and see um, and basically see what we're looking at. Um, Actually, before we do this, before we do this, actually, I want to show. I will show you guys my. Those of you curious, if you haven't checked it out already, one second, let me pull it up. If you haven't checked it out already, please check out the weekly commodity pulse. It's my it's my weekly newsletter. I publish twice a week. Mondays, you're gonna get a newsletter. It basically has um, get we get an opinion like you get it's mainly just opinion pieces covering various topics of the week from the week or recent weeks. Um, so this is from this week, earlier this week. Tomorrow's edition will be Friday edition will be coming out. Monday edition comes with usually will come with a few articles on recent events. Then I usually do for premium subscribers, you get supply chain pulse where I talk about recent developments in the commodity markets, supply chains. We look at various indices, geopolitical risk. Then we have sector sentiment pulse again using my proprietary dashboard that it's currently under development. We look at CFTC analysis, and then we look at sectoral analysis. Um, and we looked at different sectors like manufacturing, industrial, tech sector, financials, correlation. Um, so feel free to check this out. Um, if you go back, I'll show you. So that's Monday edition. If you're interested, I can show you an example of this is an example of our Friday edition. Again, this will be out tomorrow. It usually covers. I'll usually take two questions. I'll usually choose two questions that I get from readers, or that some people that I've had conversations with, and I'll usually answer them. Then I'll usually have like a top 31 day movers where I look at top movers in commodity markets, and I'll usually do like a quick high level and technical and sectoral analysis of them. I'll then usually look at some technicals, and then I'll usually have some I'll look at some correlations. And again, I usually end off with a short-term outlook for the coming, for the next, looking forward at the next 31 days as of that Friday. Again, it's rolling weekly, but usually come up with a short-term outlook for investors. Um, so yeah, so check it out. It's 990. It's 975 a month, or we have a discount where if you come out with we have a discount. It's 975 a month or $100, about $100 a year, 99.75 exactly per year if you sign up for the whole year. Check this out. The price will be increasing. The first 100 subscribers will get the will get, if you sign up for a year, we'll get 99.75. After that, it will be going up to full price. So please check it out and let me know and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Um, but yeah, I wanted to show you the guys that let's talk about critical minerals briefly. And then I think we will call it for this week. Um, Actually, before we look at critical minerals, I'm just looking here, like, outlook based on existing trends and policies. Let's look at some scenarios, actually. I didn't even look at that. Let's go to a page 101, 137. Um, that's almost universal. Almost universal, like, a lot of we're gonna see an overall, growth in electrical demand. Again, consistent with what we were talking about, appliance industry, electric vehicles, data center built like data centers. Um, that's a pretty big jump. So yeah, I guess they could have just say infrastructure. I guess other buildings and of which data centers that slice data centers. I'm curious if they see it, you can find exact percentages. Um, it's interesting they're talking about solar PV. That they're projecting that much of an increase in solar PV. Um, when you talk about efficiency, like, I know, like, people, again, talking to people in industry, like, I know that, like, solar is not the most efficient form. I'm surprised. I wonder why. I'd be curious to read more about why they're not necessarily projecting heavier increase in in nuclear. Um, might be policy related. My best guess is it's policy related, and also likely just like infrastructure. I mean, just developing the infrastructure for it. But again, SMR should. I would imagine that SMR production would actually increase the production. Solar, you think about it, like less than 12 hours a day, you can pretty much get you pretty much are able to gather the energy. So it's not really efficient, at least with like nuclear, it's almost 24/7. Um, let's see. Yeah, global annual average capacity to expand, but they face mounting integration challenges with CBS. Yeah, government policies which slow their deployment. Annual solar PV capacity additions, um, an average 450 gigawatts to 2035, holding steady at roughly 2024 levels. You see, it's not that it's government policies. Um, nuclear capacity. Okay, so they are going to increase. It's just they are going to increase. Um, let's look at oil and gas, fossil fuels. Here we go. Oil, natural gas. It's interesting. So emerging markets. So looking at this, like the shade, like the dark blues, developed economies, advanced economies, light blues, emerging markets, international bunkers. It's the gray. So again, I think coal, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, natural gas, I like you heard with China has recently been transitioning, the power of Siberia and the power of Siberia 2 pipeline. They've been trading with the Indians and the Russians for quite some time. They're going to continue. They're shifting to natural gas thing mainly as a trend. So natural gas is kind of like the transitionary fuel, going off coal and oil, or they're trying to shift off coal to more of a oil or natural gas. Um, and again, that's typical in developing nations. China actually recently I think they announced they're not considered a developing nation anymore. Now they're developed. I mean, looking at their GDP, it's kind of. I thought they've pretty much been developed for years. But that's a bit of a political hot button, so I won't get into that. But again, yeah, that's probably why they're projecting by 2050 um, demand for coal is just to plummet. Looks like it's just going to plummet. Demand in the advanced economy, you're looking at plateau demand in natural gas, shrinking demand in oil. Uh, I think that's reasonable. I think it makes sense with their. I mean, yeah, coal 35%, and they're looking at 35% drop in 20 by to 20, through to 2035, and then I guess 2050 flat. You know, It makes sense though because going back to going in emerging markets, increasing. I mean, it makes sense. Typically, usually what happens, the life cycle of energy consumption in any nation is when the country's being developed, when the doesn't have the infrastructure, doesn't have the luxury, it's trying to raise its standard of living, trying to grow its economy. It goes for cheaper. It goes for cheap. It doesn't have the money to necessarily invest in this green technology, which is very expensive and costly. So instead of building green infrastructure, they build infrastructure, period, that they can afford to build, which is with natural gas or oil. And so that's why it's increased. Natural gas, I think, is the obvious choice. It's cleaner than traditional oil, but it's yeah. Anyways, it's cleaner. It's the way to go. But um, that's gonna it's gonna draw. I think that's why we're seeing this divergence in demand. And yeah, I mean, just look at that. That just shows like we're looking at the divergence. Um, yeah, just crude oil production. This is interesting too. Like China overtook Europe as the world's largest crude oil importer in 2020, and this keeps pushing. the- I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I think that's interesting. Like if you're interested, I think that's what time is it? This is interesting. Yeah, so I think that's I think that's it for this week, honestly. It's been, I think that's our time. It's been about 30, 35 minutes. Um, yeah, usually I don't like to keep these on for longer than a half hour, just, nowadays, if you're interested, yeah, but I know I don't like to keep these on going too long. If you're interested in reading more, you can always just Google World Energy Outlook 125 International Energy Agency. It'll come up. Um, Again, if you enjoy this type of if you enjoy this type of content, subscribe, turn your notifications on so you never miss an episode, and leave a comment if you have any questions. It would really help with the algorithm. You can like and subscribe and turn your notifications on. I know I keep saying that, but I'm trying to. It can really help. If you're interested in the content, please check out my newsletter, the weekly commodity pulse. I publish twice a week. Um, Premium is only $9.75 a month, and or 99.75 a year. You're getting essentially 2 months free by purchasing the full year subscription. So please consider, consider that option if you're considering. Um, and and awesome. And coming soon, obviously, will I will. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Actually, I forgot. I want to kind of unveil my first my this is kind of in a proprietary terminal project that I've been working on, but basically I've been right now it's only commitment traders data, but essentially I've created a terminal in there. I'll load up the last 5 years of data, but basically it's a terminal that I'm working on for COD analysis, CFTC analysis. It's currently loading. Give it a few minutes, but this will also in the future come with um, with um, forecasts and scenario analysis, scenario modeling, volatility modeling, um, and economic data. Obviously, it's a work in progress. It's in development right now. It's not currently deployed or in beta yet. It will be in beta testing in the coming months. Please let me know in the comment section if you're interested in beta testing this, and we can get in touch and discuss more. Basically, so this is kind of what I've been using. You probably recognize from my sector sentiment. This is kind of what I've been using for my sector sentiment here terminal, kind of what I'm using for my sector sentiment pulse, but or sorry, in the beginning and in the beginning of the week when I discuss when I discuss the different sector when I set sector sentiment. Um, but yeah, basically what it's doing is it's going to load CFTC data. Right now, it's loading CFTC data and it's kind of looking at high level, looking at net positions. It's going to give signals if it's a bull, bear, or neutral. It gives it a score. It gives it a score between 1 and -1, and look at volatility, position, percentile, and of course, my favorite part of this is, and this is still work in progress, but you can scroll through um, let's go to crude oil. Where is that? Crude oil average price, spread options. Let's go crude oil light sweet, analyze. This has every commodity on the CFTC database. And you can and CFTC database, and of course, it's just giving your commercials for speculators spreads. You're looking at your money managers positions. You're looking at weekly changes again weekly changes in money manager positions. Net short or net long. You have your different of your different positions, and yeah, you have current percentiles. You have some stats there, and then of course we have summary. Right now, it just looks at sectors. Again, this is work in progress, but again, it's ranking the different sectors. You can look at sectoral details. You can look at summary of the different sectors. These are the scores. So, and you can obviously export it. And of course, I'm integrating API settings with Fred API and Alpha Vantage, so you can look at different commodities. Super interesting stuff. Again, if you're interested in beta testing this terminal when it is ready, please let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you guys next week for the live stream at 7.